Oh man, I am very tired. Yeah, I don't look like this accidentally. It's actually on purpose. You'll figure it out soon. So this is one day late. I'm sorry. I've been planning for this for a few days, but I've been busy, and I also got a vaccine, so that's kind of tiring me out. I'm gonna read a speech from a young lady, although I think within a year she'll be 20, and we'll have to call her Madame. Um, and this was about 32 months ago, this speech. Recently, I've seen many rumors circulating about me and enormous amounts of hate. This is no surprise to me. Yeah, HSD, anybody that deviates from the norm, even school teachers and school administrators, I found help promote this kind of bullying. I know that since most people are not aware of the full meaning of the climate crisis, which is understandable since it has never been treated as a crisis, a school strike for the climate would seem very strange to people in general. So let me make some things clear about my school strike. In May 2018, I was one of the winners in a writing competition about the environment held by Svenska Dagbladet. Oh, sorry about the Swedish newspaper pronunciation. I got my article published, and some people contacted me. Among others was Bo Thorin from Fossil Free Dalsland. He had some kind of group with people, especially youth. He wanted to do something about the climate crisis. I had a few phone meetings with other activists. The purpose was to come up with a few ideas of new projects that would bring attention to the climate crisis. Bo had a few ideas of things we could do, everything from marches to a loose idea of some kind of school strike, that school children would do something on the school yards or in the classroom. That idea was inspired by the Parkland students who had refused to go to school after the school shootings. I liked the idea of a school strike, so I developed that idea and tried to get the other young people to join me. But no one was really interested. They thought that a Swedish version of the zero-hour march was going to have a bigger impact. So I went on planning the school strike all by myself, and after that I didn't participate in any more meetings. When I told my parents about my plans, they weren't very fond of it. They did not support the idea of school striking, and they said that if I were to do this, I would have to do it completely by myself and with no support from them. Just like, when kids learn to tie their own shoes or ride a bike, eventually, their choices must be done by themselves. Their skills must be developed by themselves, but guided by mentors, right? On the 20th of August, I sat down outside the Swedish parliament. I handed out flyers with a long list of facts about the climate crisis and explanations on why I was striking. The first thing I did was to post on Twitter and Instagram what I was doing, and it soon went viral. Then journalists and newspapers started to come. A Swedish entrepreneur and businessman active in the climate movement, Ingmar Renshog, was among the first to arrive. He spoke with me and took pictures that he posted on Facebook. That was the first time I had ever met or spoken with him. I had not communicated or encountered with him ever before. Many people love to spread rumors saying that I have people behind me or that I'm being paid or used to do what I'm doing. It's funny, I think one time one of my thesis supervisors in my master's degree thought maybe my tutor was guiding me along too much because she kind of thought I was different than what I really am. So she didn't know these words, well written arguments, were coming from me. So I'm being paid or used to do what I'm doing, but there is no one behind me except for myself. My parents were as far from climate activists as possible before I made them aware of the situation. By the way, I don't accept ads on YouTube, so I do not make any income, never did with YouTube. I started Patreon, and I suggest $3 per month support, and I never got anybody come on if I've done things right. Now, it does, Patreon, ask me to support others, but it doesn't get maybe watching my videos that I'm very poor that I can't afford to support others. But I mean, maybe if I do meet somebody I want to support, it's because they also won't allow ads on their YouTube. If they do both, yes, I don't want to support this kind of incongruence. I am not part of any organization. I sometimes supported and cooperated with several NGOs that work with the climate and environment, but I am absolutely independent and I only represent myself, and I do what I do completely for free. I have not received any money or any promise of future payments in any form at all. This sounds like a lawyer. Help her write this stuff, but I know that if when she gets support, it's not money. It's maybe people wanting to support her, which is a community of activists. I'm not there yet, and maybe I may never be, but that's okay. I mean, it'd be nice someday if somebody agreed with one or two main core concepts that I talk about, but and that would be a life-changing thing for them, right? It would be huge. Like they would lose a lot of friends and family members, as I have. In fact, all relatives and friends are gone. They're into this denial world that I don't live in anymore. And nor has anyone linked to me or my family done so. And of course, it will stay this way. I have not met one single climate activist who is fighting for the climate for money. Well, there are some. Maybe not the ones because they're screened out pretty well for her. Maybe I've tried to contact her. Maybe she thinks I'm one. I don't know. I haven't heard back from her and her family. But I haven't tried that much, and I'm okay not necessarily trying that much. That idea is completely absurd. Furthermore, I only travel with permission from my school, and my parents pay for tickets and accommodations. My family has written a book together about our family and how I and my sister, Greta, have influenced my parents' way of thinking and seeing the world. It's very important parents start acknowledging that it's their kids that anchor them back into reality, probably not as successfully as they could have if HSD wasn't that strong. But yeah, there should be more parents admitting this, especially when it comes to the climate and about our diagnoses. That book was due to be released in May 2018, but since there was a major disagreement with the book company, we ended up changing to a new publisher, and so the book was released in August the same year instead. Before the book was released, my parents made it clear that their possible profits from the book oh man, I'm not going to pronounce it, Scenes from the Heart, will be going to 8 different charities working with the environment, children with diagnoses, and animal rights. Again, if I ever wrote a book, did you see who I'm reading from? Okay, I'll tell you right now. Okay, and this is a book of her speeches, and there's some before this, and there's even more after, and you can see her progression as a systems thinker. She's already better than Jordan B. Peterson as a systems thinker, and the kind of traveling and hardships she's endured, and the kind of caring for doing the right thing instead of just doing what benefits them and thinking that's available for everybody. That's a flaw right there. So, but the thing is at her young age, it's amazing how much she's a systems thinker. But she unfortunately will not be one to the point that will help her realize until it kind of hits her in the face that, not just before she was born, but before I was born, our species failed up here to be able to problem solve its own messes. So, okay, so before the book was released, my parents made it clear the profits would go to these charities and with the environment, children, animal rights. Okay, and people with diagnoses. And yes, I write my own speeches. But since I know that what I say is going to reach many, many people, I often ask for input. I also have a few scientists that I frequently ask for help on how to express certain complicated matters. I want everything to be absolutely correct so that I don't spread incorrect facts or things that can be misunderstood. Some people mock me for my diagnosis, but Asperger's is not a disease, it's a gift. People also say that since I have Asperger, I couldn't possibly have put myself in this position. But that's exactly why I did this, because if I would have been normal and social, I would have organized myself in an organization or started an organization by myself. And we all know where organizations lead, right? Jane Goodall, David Suzuki, their foundations, are examples of suddenly becoming, what the Amazon forest now is, in South America. So, but since I am not that good at socializing, I did this instead. I was so frustrated that nothing was being done about the climate crisis, and I felt like I had to do something, anything, and sometimes not doing things, like just sitting down outside the parliament, speaks much louder than doing things, just like a whisper sometimes is louder than shouting. Also, there is one complaint that I sound and write like an adult. Well, I mean, this is probably translated into English. I don't know. She probably writes in her own language first, but for me, this sounds appropriate to somebody that cares to do a good job, that works on her speeches, and maybe gets somebody to spell check and make sure it's well done before somebody translates it, if she doesn't do that herself. So for me, I think it's appropriate to her age, except, maybe a lot of people think, that we shouldn't be that good at speeches, but it's actually people have to be motivated to write a speech and deliver it, and that's really rare. And to that, I can only say, don't you think that a 16-year-old can speak for herself? There are some people who say that I oversimplify things. For example, when I say that the climate crisis is a black and white issue. We need to stop the emissions of greenhouse gases, and I want you to panic. But that I only say because it's true. Now, if people criticize her for that, yeah, again, they might not be very good at analyzing text themselves, right? She said that specifically related to what causes greenhouse gases to kind of warm up, right? That's the black and white part. She's not talking about the entire system understanding, right? Yes, the climate crisis is the most complex issue that we have ever faced, and it's going to take everything from our part to stop it. But the solution is black and white. We need to stop the emissions of greenhouse gases. And because we're not, well, look what's happening with Putin. I mean, it's not hard to figure out right and wrong there either. But because so here's an example. Let's say she gets consultation from scientists that analyze specifically the chemistry in the atmosphere and its responses with the greenhouse gases. She does not necessarily from that same person get political or social systems thinking consultation with what's happening between countries in, let's say, oil wars and their economies and the politics that's behind it, right? And how even changing to non-combustible engines requires combustible engines to feed this industry for way too long before we're kind of too late with this. Because either we limit the warning to 1.5 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial levels, or we don't. Either we reach a tipping point where and by the way, guys, the facts that came in and are still hopeful since then, meaning from scientists who can't really deal with reality entirely themselves, so it gives us, false hope, negatives in the results, but it's even worse than this from 32 months ago, okay? Either we reach a tipping point where we start a chain reaction with events way beyond human control, or we don't. Either we go on as a civilization, which we've never stabilized a proto-civilization, or we don't. There are no gray areas when it comes to survival. And when I say that I want you to panic, I mean that we need to treat the crisis as a crisis. So when your house is on fire, you don't sit down and talk about how nice you can rebuild it once you put out the fire. If your house is on fire, I don't know, there might not be a lot of wood to use for everybody to rebuild a house. You run outside and make sure that everyone is out while you call the fire department. That requires some level of panic. There is one other argument that I can't do anything about. And by the way, a lot of the parents that don't want to treat it, or politicians or whoever, people that talk about this, they don't want to treat it as a crisis, they're really the kind of parent where, they're a deer with the is it fawn, crossing the road, and the bright lights are coming, even horns, and the child deer is asking, should we run or what should we do? Oh, don't worry, just enjoy the beautiful lights. That's really the way I see most parents, especially when they keep having kids, really respond. And that is that the fact that I'm just a child and we shouldn't be listening to children. But that is easily fixed. Just start to listen and to the rock solid science instead, including the social sciences. Because if everyone listened to the scientists and the facts that I constantly refer to, then no one would have to listen to me or any of the other hundreds of thousands of school children on strike for the climate across the world. I hope they're on strike also for good quality education, which is a secondary reason. Then we could all go back to school. I am just a messenger, and yet I get all this hate. I am not saying anything new. I am just saying what scientists have repeatedly said for decades. Some behind closed doors when they're hired by oil industry. And I agree with you. I'm too young to do this. We children shouldn't have to do this. But since almost no one is doing anything and our very future is at risk, we feel like we have to continue. Like, she's one of the most competent person to be developing into a responsible adult. That means she'll have to feel like she can't even become a climate scientist. She'll have to become a leader for dumbass kids who are the ones who say, oh no, that's just beautiful lights and sounds. You can stay in the road as long as you want. There'll be a lot more kids like this than her type of kids. So she'll be forced to kind of help them instead of, doing more to understand system science. But again, like she says, we have all the answers, really. We just have to apply it. But I'm the only one talking about the answers of why we're not applying it at the core as a grand unification theory. But since almost no one is doing anything and our very future is at risk, we feel like we have to continue. And if you have any other concern or doubt about me, then you can listen to my TED Talk in which I talk about how my interest for the climate and environment began. And thank you, everyone, for your kind support. It brings me hope. And so this is her. She's a hero. I hope that the new Pope, let's say, will tell the world how much he's a hero instead of, one of the last popes promoting Celine Dion. I've never heard her doing anything special related to her part of the problem. So, by the way, the UK is actually the politician lady. She's telling King Charles, hey, take it easy on climate activism participation. So I don't know if she's a socio-cybernetist or she's been advised by some, but she's pretty much, she can actually depower or de-influence the monarchy by doing this. And if he thinks that it's the right thing to do, because let's say he doesn't want to destabilize politics in his country, then he's being manipulated, if she's smart enough to do that, to actually take away the influence. Now, he's already said some pretty serious things, Prince Charles, before he became king. And so his role is more important in politics right now. And it can also be very, very damaged if suddenly it becomes incongruent, because as reality still continues to accelerate and manifest, then everybody's going to think how ridiculous the monarchy is. So that means more power of influence in those regions will be in the politics of people that just fake the green values. So, hey, I'm going to do a song here which I haven't practiced, and it's frickin' fast. Sorry about my language. So let's see what happens, and I'll see if I can keep up with something playing in my ears, so I can, because I haven't really mastered this song very much. So let's try it, see what happens. I got the lyrics here, but I'm going to try to whisper it, not to sing it too loud. You ready? I'm hearing the music right here. It's about to start. Dedicated to Greta. Bravo, Madame le monde, chapeau. Madame le monde, même quand les gens diront que vous ne tournez pas toujours très rond. Bravo pour vos montagnes, c'est beau, c'est formidable. Compliment pour vos saisons qui nous donnent des idées de chansons. Bravo la mer, on n'a jamais trouvé un vert plus bleu, un bleu plus vert. Aucune symphonie n'est riche d'autant d'harmonie qu'un merveilleux tonnerre qui fait l'amour avec la pluie. Bravo le vent, qui fait ramper les blés, qui fait trembler les océans. Bravo pour le soleil et la colère du volcan. Bravo pour l'arc-en-ciel qui met de la joie dans le cœur des enfants. Bravo, Madame le monde, chapeau. Madame le monde, nous vous demandons pardon pour tous ceux qui vous abîmeront. Bravo, Madame le monde, bravo pour la colombe, si vous lui laissez la vie, nous vous dirons simplement merci.